Hey, and welcome to another episode of Rankum. This is going to be a very fun one because it's Halloween this week, and because I believe Doctor Sleep comes out this week as well, or next week. But I thought it'd be fun to do horror movies of the 80s, 90s. And I've got a great panel here. To my left, we've got Jeff. Jeff, how are you going?
I'm doing very good. I'm very excited for this panel. As you know, 90s is a big decade for me. 80s is a good decade too. I won't knock on the 80s, but horror is definitely something I'm a big fan of. And I think we got ourselves a good panel and some good options tonight. So let's have some fun.
Yep. And just down underneath me, we've got Kevin. Kevin, how are you feeling?
Just like Jeff, I feel like the 80s and 90s are some of my strong suits. I'm a 90s baby, I guess you could call me. And I like the panel that we have today. And I look forward to seeing some of the movies that are presented and how we rank.
And down under and to the left, we've got Doug. Doug, how are you feeling about?
I think technically you're down under, but I'll take it. So I listen, guys. It's dad jokes. I'm old enough to be a dad. I should just say dad jokes. Jeff gets my humor. No, but I'm super excited as someone who is very much a big horror enthusiast. As horror is on pretty much every one of my fan movie league things. I love it. There's so much more to horror than what people give it credit for, and I just really love this genre in general. And I get to see Doctor Sleep in like 3 days, so let's go.
Without further ado, we're going to get started. How the listeners, we're each going to go around and nominate a movie we think belongs on the top 12 horror movies of the 80s and 90s. And because there's only 4 people here, we may have someone join us at some stage, but for now, the person nominating their vote won't count. It'll come down to the other 3 people whether it makes the list. So it's going to make things interesting. But without any further ado, I'm going to go to Jeff first. Jeff, what's the first movie you're going to bring up?
Oh boy, I kicked this thing off. Jeez. I guess we'll go with it. I'll go with one of my top picks. For me, a good horror film is something that it doesn't necessarily need to have a big scary monster or a big scary creature of sorts. It can sometimes just be a human being, and especially something that's self-contained and something that you just immediately feel the tension right off the bat. And the performances in the movies sell it with just 2 people, an amazing actor and amazing actress, talking about Misery. This movie is just sheer terror from the moment you encounter Annie Wilkes. Kathy Bates does an amazing job. James Caan does an amazing job. It's immediate tension throughout, and I think it's absolutely perfect for a horror film.
Doug, I don't think you like Stephen King, not at all. But Doug, what do you say about Misery?
No, Stephen King. What do you mean, Stephen King? Oh my God, that guy right there. He writes some scary stuff, guys. Some scary stuff. No, but absolutely, Misery is one of my favorite adaptations of his stuff. I'll mention an adaptation that is my favorite adaptation, but it's a damn good movie later on. But Misery is a ridiculously suspenseful, on the edge of your seat, and you're literally in a cabin for majority of the movie. What she does to that man in the book, it gets really gruesome, but it's just as gruesome on film. So yeah, it's 100% Misery, absolutely.
Kevin, what do you say about Misery?
There's not a whole lot I can say that hasn't already been said. Doug brought up a really good point. It's a great adaptation. Jeff brought up a really good point about it being about how tense it is, about how there's only the 2 performers in James Caan and Kathy Bates, and their performances are great. I have to put this one on my list. Misery is a top horror movie for me, no doubt. It does go on my top 12 list.
Um, but yeah, I'm glad that it made the list because I actually haven't seen it. It's definitely on my list to watch. I did try to find
If that
it.
would have got Nick Caged. If that would have got Nick Caged.
If this got Con aired, I would be pissed.
But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about this, and it's just one that I tried to find to watch for this, but I just never got to it in time. But I mean, like with this, if Kathy Bates was nominated for an Oscar for this, I've heard a lot about this, and it's definitely one I'm definitely going to try and track down very quickly. Doug, what's your first nomination?
Cool. So we're going from one Stephen King adaptation to the next because it's not a complete list without adding this movie. While I agree with Stephen King, it's not a faithful adaptation. I still love this movie. He's grown less harsh on the movie as the years pass, but stealing a joke from somebody else, he pretty much likes everything now. But I'm gonna go with The Shining. If we're talking about Doctor Sleep at all, paying homage to it, The Shining is one of the classic horror movies. It's a movie that's built upon suspense and cabin fever, something that could happen to the everyday man or woman. And in a match that I don't like to look upon, I'm just gonna bash your brains in. That line will stick in my head for the rest of my life, and that's not even from the movie. So I'm gonna put The Shining up. I love this movie. I'm hoping you guys love this movie as well.
Kevin, what do you say about The Shining?
The Shining, Stanley Kubrick. There's so many ties into this movie that go beyond horror. But sticking to the horror, I have so many flashbacks to scenes. Young Danny on the trike with the twins and the blood coming down the hallway. Even just the pattern on the floor, the numbers on the doors, you name it. I mean, there are so many just detailed things. But you're talking about the scary stuff when he bashes in the door. Here's Johnny. That's iconic. This is a no doubter. The Shining has to go on the list.
But yeah, I don't know much about The Shining. I do pretty much like The Shining. I don't want to be sued. But 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 yeah, I mean, I do love this movie, The Shining. I wouldn't be as hyped for Doctor Sleep if I didn't love it. And I mean, like, this shows the impact of this has on pop culture. The fact that they brought it up in Ready Player One as well. Like, the effect this has actually had on pop culture as well has been incredible. But Shining does make the list. Jeff, what would you have said about The Shining?
I mean, you can't have a horror list and not mention The Shining. I mean, it's iconic for a reason. The whole just complete descent into madness for Jack Torrance and Jack Nicholson's performance is just so memorable. It's so good that you can't ignore it. I mean, and even though Shelley Duvall had like a lot of issues with the process and with working with Kubrick, she still does a good job in the movie. Even Scatman Crothers does a really good job too. Overall, the movie is just great. And yeah, you can't talk about Dr. Sleep without talking about The Shining. So this would have been a hell yes.
Kevin, it's back to you. It's round to you. What is your first nomination?
I'm going to put up one that is maybe controversial, but it's a Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the Wes Craven adaptation. It's an early. It's the only one that he had anything to do with, so it's of course the only one that I like. besides Wes Craven's The New Nightmare. But it had Johnny Depp and as in an early role. But I just remember an early memory of mine is actually getting sick in the theater. So I got to put this one on the list.
You know what? I completely forgot this was the 80s. I thought this was late 70s when it first came out. But it's an absolute yes for me. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is great. I mean, without it, we would not have gotten like Freddy at all. And say what you want about the 2010 remake, which is relatively it is good, but the this original was phenomenal. It did kind of change the way people thought about horror. But Jeff, what do you say about A Nightmare on Elm Street?
I mean, I don't see why this is a controversial pick. This is horror at its greatest right here. I mean, I love the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I think Robert Englund, helped put a new fear into us. I mean, for the longest time, we've been so used to just this. We have a slasher. We have a big-bodied person. This is somebody who invades dreams, invades your sleep. This was a whole new territory for us, and I think that it just created a whole new fear level. And I still love the bedroom scene where the girl is being dragged across, the ceiling. That was innovative at the time, and it's still innovative to this day. I think it created so many memorable scenes. It's definitely one of the best of the franchise. There's two others that I think are up there. Kevin already mentioned one of them. We'll get into another one possibly, but Nightmare on Elm Street is a definite yes for me.
But we're off to a good start. Now it's back to me for my first pick.
We forgot what Doug would have said.
It's quite all right. It's an okay, yes.
I got you, bud.
What would you have said, Doug?
Yeah, it's an easy yes. Robert Englund's character portrayal gives you something that's menacing and humorous at the same time. It's something that it made you believe that your nightmares could haunt your outside of your dreams. The whole scene where he's hung in a jail cell when he passes out. It's insane. It's a great pick.
But yeah, my first pick is going to be it's a very interesting pick to be put up, but I'm going to throw it out now because it's a really good one for an early pick. But I'm bringing up Apt Pupil, which is another Stephen King adaptation, starring Ed McKellen. I actually recently watched this for the Stephen King adaptation episode we did. But this one I actually enjoy. But this is a lot of people may say this is more of a thriller than horror. To me, they kind of go hand in hand and kind of along the same ways. I can't say I remember much about this movie, but I just remember that I thought it was great. I thought Ian McKellen's acting in this was just phenomenal. But yeah, Apt Pupil is on the table. Jeff, what do you say about Apt Pupil?
I'm gonna throw out the I haven't seen this card. It's one I do want to see. I mean, I am trying to see more and more of Stephen King's adaptations, but this is one that has just missed my radar. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with a no, just on the basis that I haven't seen it.
Doug, what do you say about Apt Pupil?
Sorry, Malcolm. I don't dislike this movie completely. It's just kind of bland for me. I think the writing, the adaptation, the book is, as most cases, far superior, but they do a kind of disservice with some of the characters. So I got to give this a slight no.
And Kevin, what would you have said?
I would have also had to said no, just based on the same thing as Jeff. I haven't seen it. I would also like to see it and read the book as well.
Right. Jeff, it's back to you for your next nomination.
Okay. I'll go with this one. I love when horror can blend very well with a different genre. We've seen it done with comedy, but I think it does really well with science fiction because the possibilities can be endless in a way. And I think this is probably one of the best horror sci-fi films we have seen. And again, kind of like following a suit with like Misery, it's kind of like a contained movie, but it works really well. And of course, it's going to be from the gorgeous mind of one John Carpenter. It is The Thing. I absolutely love this movie. Kurt Russell does an amazing job. You just feel every bit of tension, like the blood testing scene. If you do not feel any sort of tension or hair raising on your arm, like you can't be human, because that scene, it still works how many years later. The effects are really good. The practical effects are phenomenal. Everything in the movie works. The gore is fantastic. Even like the little sadistic side in me. It's just the whole movie works really well. I love that this is like the perfect blend of horror and sci-fi. So The Thing is definitely one that needs to be mentioned.
The thing is on the table, and there's two people in this world. There's the Harloffs who haven't seen it, and there's everyone else. Doug, are you a Harloff or are you everyone else?
I'm a motherfucking Harloff. I'm sorry, guys. This is one movie that has evaded me numerous times. There's been times where people have had it on and it's like halfway through the movie. I'm like, I'm not sitting halfway through a movie and watching it. And then there's just, it's just one of those movies that has evaded me for so many years. And it's like, I could go rent it, but it's like, I kind of know the premise of it already. Like, and kind of like the whole first viewing thing, you want to know the surprises and everything. And it kind of, that I think that's why I don't really want to watch it, because I already know everything that's happened in the movie. It got ruined for me several times. So yeah, sorry guys.
Kevin, what do
But
you
there's two
say?
more people. There's two more people that can save you.
Yeah, Kevin, what do you say about The Thing?
I happen to
Kevin?
fall into the everyone else category. I like this movie. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got
can
you.
hear you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I like this movie. Keith David. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just like mainly how it shows how you can have an awesome horror movie with 100% practical effect. Yeah. So I did have this one on my list. I will put this one on the list. Yeah.
And yeah, this is one I actually just have recently seen myself, and definitely saying, giving this a yes. I love this movie. But yeah, if I'd invited Christian Harloff here, it wouldn't have made it. But but no, still would have made it regardless. But yeah, The Thing makes the list easily. And Doug, it's back to you for your next nomination.
Cool. So I'm looking real quick over my list here, what I want to put up. We put up my last pick started right at 1980. My next pick is going to start in 1995. This was an incredible movie that had it was a horror thriller, especially with the ending that gets quoted all the time. What's in the box? And that is the movie Seven. I'm putting Seven up. I think it's a tribute to everything that humanity can do wrong with itself and let it get thrown up in your face. I think that Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman's performances in this movie are phenomenal. The reaction at the end, it gets me every time. I seen this movie in 95. Should not have seen it in 95, and it has haunted me ever since. So yeah, Seven. I guess it's
Kevin,
actually seven then.
Kevin, what do you say about Seven? You appear to be muted. We can't hear you.
Nope. Still.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
No, we can't hear you.
This is what we call dead air, ladies and gentlemen. It's okay. Work with us.
How's everybody doing?
I mean, while we wait for Kevin to sort of sort out his audio, but I'll go on this while we wait. It's an easy yes. If putting it on my own list because it's one of those ones which kinda is on the very fine line of thriller and a crime movie, but it's one that I will say yes to because it is a good movie and does belong on this list. Jeff, what would you say about 7?
Ooh, I'm kind of like with you. Like this kind of like treads that line of is this more of a horror versus this is more of a thriller. That's where like the line gets blurry. And yes, like the two can kind of go hand in hand, but I look at this more as a thriller more than a horror. It's definitely a great movie. I love 7, but I kind of view it more as a thriller procedural crime rather than a horror film. So I'm going to respectfully say no on this one. But I do love 7.
Breaking my heart, Jeff. Breaking my heart.
You broke my heart in the thing.
It's okay. I broke your heart.
It's a tit for tat. Don't worry.
It's a tit for tat. We're good.
So, Kevin, it's down to you.
And you
We
still can't
still
hear,
can't hear you.
Oh no.
Exit out and come back in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, exit out, try coming back in. We'll try that. The beauty of doing things live. Nothing ever goes wrong.
Not at all. So, guys, the list that we have so far: Misery.
Okay,
he says yes.
He says yes.
So 7 makes the list.
Okay, I'll respect it.
This reminds me of when Doug went silent doing something and had to, to use his whiteboard.
Yeah, you might have to drop out of the call and then drop back in. You might have to do that. I was like, don't worry, we'll wait for you. End all of YouTube. It's okay. And we lost him.
He'll come back.
But he will be back.
But
just like every horror franchise in the 80s, they come back for 6-7 installments.
Yep.
Unless you're Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, unless you're Hellraiser, and you just keep going.
I think Hellraiser's got a butt ton of DVD sequels.
I mean, that's not gonna take your pick.
Not in the 80s and 90s.
Mostly the 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
2000s when they started.
I mean, they still kept coming back for various sequels. I mean, Halloween came back last year. Child's Play came back this year. You just can't.
Did it really come back though?
I didn't hate it.
I mean, even though it was a remake, I'd argue it still came back. Even though
that was not Child's Play.
It wasn't Child's Play, but it was decent-ish. I mean, it was a decent killer doll movie, but it wasn't Child's Play.
The name is something different.
Yeah.
Are you good, Kevin?
You tell me. Am I good?
Hey, we got you. Hey.
Thanks, Jeff. Good call.
We got you, boss.
All right.
Anyway, Kevin, it's back to you for your next nomination.
Okay. Let me get resituated. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
All right. My next nomination is going to be one that, I remember from my childhood that I recall being I'm trying to think of the words to put this. I recall it. I thought it was real at the time, and it wasn't because this was kind of the first of these sort of movies. This movie is the Blair Witch Project. This movie scared the absolute shit out of me because, like I said, I thought it actually happened, and Google and all that stuff wasn't around at the time, or maybe it was, and I just didn't know how to use it. So I want to put the Blair Witch Project up as a nomination.
Blair Witch Project is on the table. And, I'm going to go off the bed and say no because I'm not a big fan of the Blair Witch Project. I enjoyed the movie when it first came out, but on multiple rewatches later, I just found it just dragged. It just didn't. I don't enjoy a lot of found footage movies as I used to. I mean, I think Cloverfield recently was one that I just really started loving them again. But I'm not the only one here. Jeff, what do you say about the Blair Witch Project?
I mean, the marketing for this movie was amazing. When this came out in the late 90s, like this took off like wildfire. I think this falls into that category of a movie that is aged like milk. It did not age very well upon further rewatches. Now that we've like we've seen like it had the impact on pop culture, and we've seen, and then once like the magic was kind of ruined behind it, it kind of took away from it. I think the best thing to come out of it is if you can find articles about how they made this movie, look them up because it was really interesting how they went about making the movie. It like they talk about like GPS trackers, like a lot of stuff they learned while on set and they kind of did it on a whim. So if you can look up how they made the movie, it's a very interesting read. But as far as the movie goes, I'm going to go with a no on this one. This one just didn't hit with me.
So Blair Witch Project doesn't make it out of the forest alive. Doug, what would you have said about the Blair Witch Project?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in the same boat they are. I rewatched this movie a little bit ago, and while I did like it, it definitely doesn't hit you the same way it hit you after the first maybe 2 times viewing it. But yeah, I gotta say it's a no on this one.
Which brings it back to me. And I'm going to stay on brand and go to 96. I'm going to bring up a movie that stars Michael J. Fox, Ali Emery, Jeffrey Combs, D. Wallace Stone, John Aston, directed by myself, Peter Jackson. I'm going for.
Is that why you wanted to do this whole joke?
Was there anyone else who could pick this movie? Really?
Nope.
Was there anyone else?
I'm going to go for the movie that's going to be the topic of Matt Kern's second look this week. It's The Frighteners. This is a great movie. And I did rewatch this just before, but this one holds up a lot. And like Peter Jackson's done a lot of great horror comedies. Not a lot are really well known sort of outside of New Zealand, unfortunately. But this is one that I think has gotten a lot of acclaim around, and it's one that I've thought I'll bring it up, see what happens. Jeff, what do you say about The Frighteners?
The Frighteners. I just watched this not too long ago, and it was like the first time I saw it in quite some time, and it holds up. And I think it's definitely a fun horror film. I think this definitely holds up. But this is one of those that sits just a little bit outside of my top 12. I think it's like sitting like around like the 16 mark. It's in the top 20. I do enjoy it, but not as much as some others. So I'm going to go with a no on this one, but I do like the movie.
Doug, what do you say about The Frighteners?
I very much like this movie. It actually didn't even occur to me to put this on my list. So it's kind of a surprise pick. And that's not saying anything against the movie. I like the movie a lot. I give this a yes. I enjoy this movie a lot after rewatching it years after years. I always put it on a Halloween list, but I never think of it as horror because it's always a little lighter. We can call this horror light. It's diet horror.
Kevin,
Diet
what
horror.
do you say about The Frighteners?
Unfortunately, I have to go with Jeff on this one. I saw it for the first time just a couple of years back, but it does just sit outside my top list or my top 12. It's about number 30 on my list. So while it is a good movie and I did enjoy it, it just doesn't break into my top list.
Well, we've reached the end of the show now. We're only going to do not going to bother make it. Just kidding. Jeff, what's your next nomination?
All right. With these shows, I like to throw my Hail Mary, and I think it's now time to throw up a Hail Mary right now. So we'll see if it lands.
Man.
Yes.
Let's see what we got.
All right. So a horror film for me is something that can attack every sense of the word, something that can get under your skin and make you feel unclean and make you feel horrible watching it. This was one of those movies where I sat there and I felt bad watching it. And it was like, you just sit there and you're like, you kind of feel like, should I be watching this? And this was one of those that it just stuck with me for years and years and years. And it still kind of sticks with me just how shocking it was. I don't know how this is going to land with people, but I'm talking about the 1997 Austrian film Funny Games. This movie was a complete and utter like uncomfortable experience, and that's what horror really is. It's trying to make you as uncomfortable and as scared as possible. And much like Misery, you didn't need a monster or a slasher of any sorts. It was just people being completely fucked in the head and just doing the most insane things possible. It breaks the fourth wall. It does something different for horror. It actually rewinds the movie at one point and completely makes you second guess it. It is such a visceral experience. That's what horror really is. Funny Games, I think, should at least be mentioned. So the Hail Mary is up. I'm looking at the end zone. Let's see if we get anybody.
Doug, what do you say about Funny Games?
He sees the wide receiver. Yeah, I love Funny Games. It does something really unique. Before you get Deadpool, before you get that horrible remake of this movie, you have Funny Games, the original. And I think the movie it gives you that whole feel of you have no control of what's going on around you. None. Like, oh my God, that ending is ridiculous. Yeah, no, it's a yes. It's a yes for me.
Kevin, what do you say about Funny Games?
This movie is it's a good movie. The way, like, it's like Doug said, the way you rolled the whole movie, and that makes you feel uneasy. And honestly, that should be a blurb on the back of a DVD cover. So I'm gonna say yes to this movie.
And with that, Funny Games does make the list.
And he reaches the end zone.
And yeah, I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't have been able to help at all with it.
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
I'll recommend it, but I
would
won't recommend it at the same time. It's one of those movies you'll watch once and you never want to watch it again.
Yeah, you'll never want to watch it again, but it's definitely worth a one-time watch.
But Doug,
That's what people tell me about the pick.
It's back to you for your next nomination.
All right, so this shouldn't be a Hail Mary in any way, shape, or form. It's a 1981 classic movie. It depicted werewolfism as something that was horrible, gruesome. The transformation when you pull at your own skin and you're just like this disgusting beast. Yeah, I'm going with a very, very classic movie, An American Werewolf in London. That opening scene all the way to the end scene, it's an unsettling movie throughout the entire movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies that I always forget to mention. And I was like, I'm not forgetting to mention it for this list, especially since it's an 80s and 90s list. And so it's right in that cusp of like 1981 and you getting some just amazing work from John Landis. I like, it's just I don't know how much else I can say about this movie, but it's like a roller coaster that you don't want to end and want to end at the same time, because it just keeps going. Just how nuts it gets. Yeah, American Werewolf in London.
Kevin, what do you say about American Werewolf in London?
This is my number one favorite werewolf monster movie. So yes, this is a definite. Like Doug said, the transformation scene obviously is something that makes me feel uncomfortable inside. So that's obviously something I trend towards when I think about horror movies. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna.
But yeah, I haven't seen it. Jeff, what do you say about American Werewolf in London?
I mean, like, I can't say anything else more than Doug and Kevin have said. This is just so freaking gruesome when they show the transformation. It just sticks with you. I mean, like, the use of practical effects is so good. Everything works really well. It has like some actual funny moments too in the movie too, which is refreshing. I mean, it's not all just like gross, but
His dead friend just haunts him the
yeah,
entire time.
yeah,
It's
like that,
great.
is like legitimately funny. I mean, that like the movie works on multiple levels. It works on keeping you scared. It works on grossing you out, and it does make you laugh here and there. I think it's a great horror film. So this would be a definite yes for me.
But yeah, that makes the list. Kevin, it's back to you for your next nomination.
All right. I'm gonna go with another horror classic. I'm gonna go with Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is my favorite Dracula film, and I just this one has always just stuck with me. It's pretty true to the novel, and I just wanted to put this one on the list.
Bram Stoker's Dracula is on the table. This is one I've seen half of. I just haven't seen enough of it to be able to say yes to it. But yeah, Jeff, what do you say about Bram Stoker's Dracula?
I can't in good conscience say yes to this one because there's so many things that just didn't work for me with it. It just ultimately the biggest thing against it was a bore after a while. I mean, it just became just so much of a slug to go through. I just couldn't really remember much of it. I mean, Keanu Reeves attempting his English accent, he was trying very, very, very hard to do it. But yeah, no, I can't go with it. I can't go with it on this one.
Doug, what would you have said?
I would have gave this a yes. I like this movie. I think Gary Oldman in this performance is one of the best Draculas that we get. I think Winona Ryder is perfect for this role. I just think overall, yeah, it does get slow parts, but if you stick it out, it's got one of the better endings for a Dracula movie. So yeah, I would have said yes for it.
But it's back to me for my next nomination. 7 on there so far.
We got 5 spots left.
I'm going to go for one that I'm surprised hasn't come up yet. I'm going to go for the first Friday the 13th because this one is just on 1980. And I was surprised that this one hasn't took this long for someone to mention it. Just like iconic slasher villains, Jason is definitely up there with Freddy and all that. And this is one that legitimately scared me the first time I watched it, but then again, I was only 12 when I first watched it, and I walked into the lounge one night to get a drink of water, and my parents were watching it, and I just sat down and watched it. I caught the ending where Jason just jumps up and scared the bejesus out of me. I don't think I slept the rest of that night. But yeah, it's a good movie. It is really suspenseful as well. Like, just knows how to build it. Even though Jason technically wasn't the villain in this one, he still appeared. But yeah, Jeff, what do you say about Friday the 13th?
I'm a little surprised. Yeah, since somebody hasn't brought up Friday the 13th yet, or any of the franchise. When I look at the franchise as a whole, the first one for me kind of sits low as far as like the best in the series. I think this sits at like the 4th or 5th spot for me. I think there's a way better installment of a Friday the 13th film in here that may or may not make this list. I don't know if I want to nominate it at all yet, but for the first one, it's fine. It doesn't really do too much. I mean, it kind of set the pace for what to expect from a slasher film, but I think there's better Friday the 13th films, so I would go with a no on this one.
Unfortunately, Jason X came out in the 2000s, so it doesn't count for the list. Doug,
he do things in space. That's all I heard the entire time. During an episode of Your List Sucks. That's what I heard. But no, I like this movie, but best of the 90s and 80s. There's so much more with a lot more meat when it comes to horror that I think should be on that list. The only reason I said yes for Nightmare on Elm Street is because the character of Freddy kind of is integral. And while, yes, Jason's cool, you're never really taken aback by his performance in the movie. But yeah, unfortunately, Malcolm, it's a no for me.
Kevin, what would you have said about Friday the 13th?
I think I probably would have said yes. I'm a big Camp Crystal Lake fan, so I do agree with these guys that there probably are some better films in the franchise, but you can't have those films without setting up the franchise. And I'm like you, Malcolm. It was just an impressionable time in my life. So personally, I did have it in my top. So yeah, I would have had it on the list.
Jeff, what do you say about what's your next nomination?
There we go. All right, we'll go with another one that I'm surprised has not been brought up yet. Kind of an obvious choice. I mean, I love horror movies that can kind of do something new. When you feel like you have a genre that's just kind of like run the course and has been doing the same old. You have a movie like this come around and it feels like a palate cleanser, and it feels like yes, this is what we've been looking for. This is something new and refreshing, and from one of the best horror minds in Wes Craven, that is Scream. I mean, he changed the whole horror landscape with this film. I mean, the whole meta context of it, acknowledging even his own rules, which is amazing. And the twist at the time caught everybody off guard. Nobody expected a twist like this to happen, and it played off really well. It created a whole new kind of, we'll just say meta. It created a new meta that horror films continue to follow in a way, and I think you can't beat the original. I mean, there's been sequels that have been kind of up and down, but I think the original still holds up as one of the best of the 90s and maybe even all time. So I'd go Scream, definitely.
Scream is on the table. Doug, what do you say about it?
Look at my face right now. Look at my face right now. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Scream. It's an instant classic. This isn't just like, it wasn't just like a game changer. This was an instant classic. People talked about this movie like you talk about, any horror movie from the 80s and 90s, even past that. It's something that revolutionized horror. Every time there's something that revolutionizes horror, it gets that trope of being a classic horror movie at that point. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It made top 4 on my Your List Sucks list for a reason. Yeah, no, I Scream 110%.
Kevin, Scream is on the table. What do you say about it?
The Ghostface character, while it could have easily become a joke, it, like Doug said and Jeff said, instant classic. This movie, Scream, while it was meta, it basically created the term meta in my mind, especially when it comes to horror. And it not only that, it created its own it created Scary Movie basically, and that whole franchise. Well, you can say what you want about it. So yeah, this definitely has to go on the list.
Yeah, I definitely would have said yes to Scream as well. It's definitely one that if it didn't make the list, there would be lots of whites, and we would have to be looking out for a certain hunter if he turns up. But but yeah, Scream is definitely a great movie. Doug, what's your next nomination?
All right. So I'm going to throw you a period piece movie. Period piece movie that gets transferred all the way up to modern day. It stars a Mr. Brad Pitt, a Mr. Tom Cruise, a Mr. Antonio Banderas, a young Miss Kirsten Dunst. And that is the movie known as Interview with the Vampire Chronicles. This movie is something that I still to this day love. I watch this movie outside of just watching horror movies. I think the characters are, you realize what a mortal life can do to somebody. Not only just change them from who they are, but completely transform them. I think this movie is fantastic. I think they did a fantastic job transferring over Anne Rice's material. I don't see, if we're not going to put on Dracula, we at least get this one on, because it's like it's a classic movie. It's something from classic text. Like Anne Rice changed the vampire genre until they became sparkly diamonds. So yeah, Interview with a Vampire.
Kevin, what do you say about Interview with a Vampire?
I agree 100% with Doug. Interview with the Vampire Chronicles. The fact it tells the story that's deeper than just a horror story about like what life is worth to people. That kind of spoke to me. Like he said, we have to get an Empire movie on here. Anne Rice is one of my favorite authors. So this is a good one to put on the list. I'll say yes to this.
Yeah. I just recently saw Interview with a Vampire. Just before, and I'm not a big fan of it. Some of the performances are great in it, but I just found the movie itself sort of dragged. But I mean, so yeah, I missed that. Going to have to say no, so it's all down to Jeff. Jeff, what do you say about Interview with a Vampire?
When you have a horror film that can create a narrative, that does something. And this movie did that. I think it created a really compelling narrative and kind of made you connect in some way to these characters. I've never read the source material, so I can't really speak on behalf of that. But based on what we got on the screen, I was very invested into the movie. This was something that I think holds up decently well, not even as like a horror, but it can even work as like a good like period piece of drama. It kind of works in multiple fashions. So I'm gonna go with a yes on this one. I think Interview with a Vampire is definitely
I got a period piece on the list. What up?
I mean, this is gonna be a controversial pick, I'm sure, but I enjoyed Interview with a Vampire. Fight me, people.
But that Interview with a Vampire does make the list. Kevin, it's back to you for your next nomination.
All right.
Wow, we got 3 slots left, guys.
Wow.
I kind of debated here 2 movies that are based on the same or based on one thing here. I went with the I went with the J horror film Ringu. It is what the American film The Ring is based on. It's kind of like what Jeff said about Scream. When you bring something new into horror, like a little girl coming out of the TV, after you play a videotape, that is some scary shit. So after I saw this, and every time I'd go to Blockbuster, I would always have that on my mind. So yeah. But when after watching Ringu, I had to really debate which one was better, and I just went with that movie because I feel like that was the source material. So I went with Ringu.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say no to Ringu. I remember watching this once before when I heard about the remake that's coming. I did not find it overly scary. I actually found the remake scarier, but yeah. So no. Jeff, what do you say about Ringu?
I chalk this up to those overhyped movies in my eyes. Like I remember seeing the original Ring and didn't really caring for it, so I thought, okay, let me try like the original source, and not really feeling any different about it. I think this started a weird trend. Like with this, then came The Grudge and movies like that. I just never really got on board with these kind of movies. They more so rely on just like the jump scares, a loud, that to me is just that to me is not the best horror for me. So I'm gonna go with a no on this one.
Doug, what would you have said about Ringu?
I gotta go with a no because I've never seen it. I've seen the remake, but I didn't like the remake, so I was like, I'm not really interested in seeing the original.
Right. It's back to me, and this pick is going to yell at everyone going, they're here. But I'm bringing up Poltergeist. But this is such a great movie. I haven't seen the recent remake that they did for it, but
remake? There's no remakes.
But I mean, Poltergeist was a really great movie. Just the way that this is shot, just like all the scenes just sort of work together. I believe this was produced by Steven Spielberg, so he had some kind of involvement with it. But this is one that it's so thinking like, and just the little girl, like, just when she gets into her moments when she acts all creepy, it's just so entertaining. But Jeff, what do you say about Poltergeist?
Well, you just took my next pick, so this would be a definite yes for me. I mean, for a horror movie to have no body count and no bloodshed at all to still scare you says something. That to me is something that works really well. I mean, the tree scaring people, the clown, like there are so many scary ass things in this movie. Even as like watching it as a kid, I was afraid to go anywhere near a bed at that point. Even as an adult, I think it still kind of works. The scares are legitimate. Everything works really well. The supernatural works really well. It's an interesting enough of a story, and this absolutely works in my eyes. So this would be a definite for me.
Doug, what do you say about Poltergeist?
Listen, I just hope that we don't die once this makes a list because this movie kind of has a bit of a curse. There's people that die after every single one. But no, we're talking straight about the movie. Carol Ann is one of the creepiest children I've ever seen in my life. That scene of their back, or what are you doing? And she's watching the TV. It's just creepy. What made you afraid of clowns when you were younger, Doug? That one would try to kill me and be a little doll in my corner. Who let their child have that doll? Who did that? That was not a plaything. That was torture. Okay, no. Bobo's watching you, kids. Be good. Yeah, it's yes.
Kevin, what would you have said about Poltergeist?
I would have said yes. These guys have talked about the plot and everything. It's awesome. The production value, though, like you said, it was co-written and produced by Steven Spielberg. Unbelievable. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like Jeff said, no blood, no guts, no gore, but yet to have the effect and the imprint that it has left on all four of us at least, and everybody else. This has to make the list, so for sure. Thanks for stealing my next one.
But Jeff,
I knew somebody was going to say it before me, so I was like, I got my Hail Mary ready.
So Jeff, it's back to you for your next pick.
Well, this is tough because we have 2 spots left, and there's a lot of good options yet. Yeah, let's go with this one. I love a good zombie movie, and for me, there is no better than one of the most unsettling, the most contained, the most just jaw-dropping, Evil Dead. You gotta talk about Evil Dead. I mean, Sam Raimi creating probably one of the most intense body horror type films is just crazy. I mean, the effects used in it are so good. The ending where like everything melts is just done so friggin' good. The woods scene, as a man, that scares me. I mean, this movie like made you afraid to go anywhere near a tree, woods, kind of a la Poltergeist, afraid of trees. But the Evil Dead, I think, is Evil Dead's a definite one that needs to be talked about. I'm surprised it hasn't been brought up earlier, because it just makes the cusp. But Evil Dead, definitely.
Doug, what do you say about Evil Dead?
It's a Raimi movie. I can say that much. I'm not a huge fan of Evil Dead. I'm just not. I get the appeal of it. Personally, I like Raimi when he does comedy. Army of Darkness is my favorite out of the trilogy. I think the comedy in that's just done really slapstick and great. But horror, he's never really been a big horror guy for me, even though he's done a bunch of horror things. He's never been my go-to horror guy, so I got to say no on this one.
Kevin, what do you say about Evil Dead?
I actually like the Evil Dead. I like the story of the Necronomicon and all that. Sam Raimi, he's not my go-to horror guy either, Doug. This one, though, it's right on the cusp. I'm gonna give it a yes, though. I'm gonna put it in.
So it's down to me. And I'm gonna say no because just like Doug, I'm not a big fan of Evil Dead.
Fair.
But
Don't have to
also
like it.
Sorry,
what?
Jeff.
No,
Jeff, it's all
okay.
right. You can cut down my hopes and dreams with my next pick. It's okay.
Well, let's see what it is.
Um, also, going back to Poltergeist for a second, fun fact: the dad in that was Mr. Incredible. So, just
Yeah.
Hmm.
Great stuff.
but Doug, what is your next pick?
All right, so we're down to the final two, and why not throw a Hail Mary? It's fun times to throw Hail Marys in crunch situations, right, guys? All right, so this is a comedy horror. Stars a Kevin Bacon, a Fred War, a very beautiful Reba McEntire at the time. This movie, I don't know why I love this movie so much. This movie is just great. And it's just people running around from giant earthworms that are trying to take over and eat people. Hey, it's a thing that happens. And I'm putting up Tremors, guys, because why not? Tremors is an amazing movie. It's funny. It has super suspenseful parts, whether you think so or not. Like, not to be able to make a single vibration or it's gonna kill you. And there are these, prehistoric creatures that just chase after you and don't need to see you. They just need to feel you walk on the ground. Terrifying. As a big person, that's terrifying. Guys, I make big sounds. I can't help it. I'm going to put Tremors up. I think this movie is great. I think it definitely needs a spot on the list. I understand that maybe some people may not think that, but this movie is a great horror comedy. Tremors.
Kevin, what do you say about Tremors?
Oh, I was trying to figure out the whole time which movie you're talking about there.
Yeah, I
And
was
then,
too.
And then I figured it out, and it's funny because this whole week I've had that movie on my list, and then I took it off. I was like, no, everybody will say that's not a horror movie. Get that shit out of here. But you know what? You freaking won me over by saying that it's scary as shit because fat people making one little move and we will get eaten alive. Put it on the list. Put it on the list. Put Tremors on the list.
I thought it was that I said it was a beautiful Reba McEntire on the film, but it was fat people making noise gets them killed. Hey, it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's been ages since I've seen this, so I don't quite remember it. But I also vaguely remember I wasn't a big fan of it. I might need to rewatch it, but I'm still going to be a no.
It's all
But
right.
Jeff, what do you say about Tremors? Are you going to get Doug back?
Damn it. You put the decision on me again. We really need that extra person in here. Oh, damn. I mean, I love Doug's pitch. I mean, that was amazing. I loved that pitch for Tremors, but I enjoy Tremors. I don't view it as a horror, though. I mean,
Oh, come on.
I mean, it have some scares, but I don't really view it that much as a horror film in my eyes, though. So I'm gonna respectfully say no, although it is a fun movie.
Kevin,
So,
it's back. Kevin, it's back to you for your next nomination.
2 slots left, guys. Oh man.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
My next nomination would be no kidding. I'm gonna go with a body that hasn't been brought up yet. Cronenberg bringing this up mainly because it's kind of right, but some stuff that hasn't been said yes to. This is it's a It's not only a great performance, but there's genuine horror there. So something that is still being referenced to this day. Uh, so I want to put forth The Fly and see what you guys have to say.
Um, but yeah, The Fly. I haven't got around to watching. It's definitely on my list to watch. It's just keeps on escaping me. But Jeff, what do you say about The Fly?
Whew, man. This was one that was sitting outside of my list, but looking at like what has been taken off, I would have no problem putting this one on now based off of the current state. I think Cronenberg did a really good job creating something that was a good you every now and then you need a good like gross out horror, and this definitely like set the bar to a like disgusting height. Like you just sit there and squirm at poor Jeff Goldblum. I would go with the yes on this one. Based off the current state, I'd go with the yes on The Fly.
And Doug, what do you say about The Fly?
Yeah, I gave him a message in the private chat, but I'll give it out right here because I'm back in time. Yeah, it's a yes. I think this movie is actually better than the original. For a remake, it takes it to levels that you don't see coming. The end sequence to where she's giving birth to a larva is disgusting. Disgusting. But yeah, no, The Fly is a great horror movie. I think it has a lot of do you want to play God kind of aspects, or are you smarter than God aspects, and I love those kind of movies. So yeah.
It's back to me, and there's two that I want to bring up that I'm surprised haven't been brought up, but I can only go for one. I'm going to try for this one. I'm going to bring up I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is another one that, when it comes to teen horror movies, this is one that is really great. I think it came a year after Scream. But I mean, this has got Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar. This is Naomi Campbell, but a bunch of great stars. A lot may have disappeared around here, but I think I Know What You Did Last Summer is great, and it's just a fun horror movie, and it makes you scared to piss off fishermen. So there's that as well. But Jeff, what do you say about I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I remember reading the Lois Duncan novel when I was like early teenager. And the book was good. And I remember seeing the movie and thought it was, at the time, good. It definitely filled that void for a good teen horror film. I don't think it holds up nearly as well, though. I think it's now become too much of a pop culture punching bag to make fun of, especially, the Jennifer Love Hewitt. What are you waiting for? Like when you look at that now, it's just kind of goofy in a way, but it's corny, it's cheesy, it's good every now and then, but it's not the best of the 90s for me. So I'm going to go with a no.
Doug, what do you say about I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yeah, Malcolm, I'm sorry, man. I don't enjoy this movie that much. I enjoyed it when I was a kid because I was like, oh, I know those actors. I think that's the first time that I realized I knew what actors actually were. Like, oh, they're doing this to do this. Gotcha. And then I figured out what they were doing, which was, I'm just phoning this role in. Because you see Ryan Philippine two years later giving a hell of a performance in Cruel Intentions. Along with Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah, but no, this is a no for me. Sorry.
Given what you've said about I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, unfortunately, this movie was only an excuse to take girls to the movies and get close to them during the jump scares. So I would have to give this one a hard no.
That's a DVD quote. If
That's a good one. It's a good
just
first
an excuse
date.
to take girls to the movies. But Jeff, it's back to you for your next
Oh,
nomination.
man, we got one spot left. Jeez. Oh man.
You know the right film to put up.
Yeah, let's go with this one, I guess. It was kind of brought up earlier, and I've mentioned before, when a horror movie can change the landscape, it's one thing. When it can be done again by the same director for an existing franchise who returned back and create something to finally kind of put the narrative to best, put the narrative to rest, works really well for an iconic character who just went down the complete shitter. I can already see Doug's already like saying his disapproval.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna throw it up. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This to me, I love when something new comes around for horror, and this kind of it takes it in a new direction. It takes a franchise we all know and love, and takes it in a direction that is interesting. It's something you can invest in. When you have the actors playing themselves, that creates something completely new. It kind of creates like this. Again, the meta in a way. This was kind of the meta before Scream was the meta. I think this came out first, but I loved what they did with this movie. The fact that they try to make it seem real, the fact that they incorporated Wes Craven into it and the actors and trying to make this seem legitimate was very new and telling for the time. And I think this holds up as probably one of the best of the franchise along with the first one. So I think New Nightmare needs to at least be mentioned.
Doug, what do you say about Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
I agree, Jeff. It should have been mentioned. But do I think it deserves to be on this list? No. Why? Because we already have a Freddy movie. I try to make this as variety filled as possible. I know I'm one person on the panel, but when you get multiples, I get it. It gave us a new, different Freddy. I didn't like that Freddy as much. The Menacing Freddy was cool, but there weren't really any good jokes in it. And I was like, I like my Freddy where it kind of combines the jokes and the horror. But I do agree with you. I like it was meta before meta. And they did it really well. But again, I got to give this a no just because I like the list to be have a little more variety when it comes to it.
I can respect that.
Kevin, what do you say about New Nightmare?
Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a great movie. I wish it had been brought up earlier. We only have one spot left. I'm not saying that as a rankum panelist that wants to get my own thing on the list. I'm like Doug. I like variety on the list. So the fact that we did get a Freddy on the list, I just think this one, I like that we mentioned it. I like that we've talked about it. I just don't think it deserves a spot on this list.
I actually would have said yes to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I do enjoy this, and I don't mind if rankings end up having a few from the same franchise, but it's one of those ones of which it's like depending on if it's the right one, I would say yes to it regardless. But anyway, Doug, it's time for you to throw out something. What do you
All
going
right,
to throw out?
guys. Let's close out this list. Let's close out this list with some of the cutest creatures you've ever seen in your life, who turn into some of the worst creatures you've ever seen in your life. It's a Christmas movie, regardless what anybody says. It's a horror movie. And it's one of the best that does it. And I'm putting up Gremlins. Gremlins is a ridiculously great movie. I watch it every Christmas, regardless of it being a horror movie. It's got some of the best heart for a horror movie. It's got some of the best life lessons for a horror movie. And like just genuinely you're dealing with a puppet who can't look at light, or they die. Just the characters, the monsters, they all have something that adds unique qualities to it. I think, Billy is a character that is stuck in a place, in a rut in his life, and he wants to get out. And after this event, it kind of pushes him into adulthood. I think this movie is fantastic. I think it's one of the best horror / comedy movies. I know I said that about Tremors, but I legitimately feel this about this movie. It's one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest Christmas horror movies, guys. One of the greatest Christmas horror movies. No, I really genuinely love this movie. Gremlins up on the table. Hopefully, you guys agree with me, and we close out this list. If not, I guess we'll keep looking.
When you started saying there's a curious creatures here before, I thought you were going to try and figure out a way to get Return of the Jedi on this list.
I was.
But
I tried, guys. I tried. It didn't work.
But Kevin, what do you say about Gremlins?
Well, let me tell you something, brother. I'm kidding. I don't know, man. Is it a horror movie? I've seen it probably 20 times, and I can't say I've ever fully felt scared watching it. I mean, yeah, I know that it may fall under those classifications, but I just don't classify it as horror myself, so I can't, in good conscience, put it on an 80's and 90's best of horror list. So no.
Yeah, I think for this one, I think I'm going to say no too, because I think even though, like, yeah, it may be considered a horror movie, I think it's so close to comedy that the horror just doesn't work. I think it's also going to sort of depend on how old you are when you first see it, because if you're a kid and watching it, then yeah, it probably will seem like a horror movie to them. But I think this is one that. But Jeff, what would you have said about Gremlins?
I actually would have said yes. I think this is like one of the first ways for kids can kind of get exposed to horror in a way that's not gonna like completely scare the shit out of them and make them afraid of everything in general. I think this is a very approachable one for that. It kind of like it's cute and it does have like the right amount of scares, but it's not a full-fledged horror. But I think it would work in this sense. It's horror-esque, but I would have given it yes.
I'm gonna go get my dog real quick. That's named after the main gremlin, and you guys tell him no.
But Kevin, what's your next nomination?
My next nomination is going to be the sci-fi horror Alien. While I would, of course, like to have put Alien on the list, that was pre 80s. So I would put Alien, but Alien still does have the xenomorph. Actually, it has multiple xenomorphs, which are a new classification of monster that, depending on your age at time of viewing, I guess, could be scary for you. I believe that was the introduction of the face hugger, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to put up Aliens as my nomination.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say no to this one because, one, I haven't seen it, and two, I believe it's kind of more actiony than the first one. The first one is definitely horror. I think the second one skirts into action. But I mean, the fact that I haven't seen it, regardless, it doesn't mean I would have seen anyway. But Jeff, what do you say about Aliens?
Yeah, I kind of like view this as more as like a sci-fi action movie rather than a horror movie. If this was Alien, yeah, this would be a definite contender. But since we're looking at Aliens, it's a solid sci-fi action film, one of the best of the decade. But as far as a horror goes, yeah, I can't with that one. So I'm gonna go with a no.
Doug, what would you say about Aliens?
Well, I agree with you that it is a horror sequel. I've been told multiple times that I am wrong. I am completely wrong. Nazari, you watching? Okay, I'm admitting I'm wrong. It's definitely an action movie. More so than horror. The goddamn alien queen takes a fucking elevator. If that doesn't give you action movie, I don't know what does.
The fact that you said alien,
at least I made y'all laugh with it. It's okay.
I don't know. I think we can. I think me and Jeff can make Zario versus Doug in a full metal match happen.
Oh, we could definitely make that happen.
Just saying, he's told me multiple times. There's people on other lists that told me multiple times. They've yelled at me for my Your List Sucks horror sequels because I had Aliens. I cheated because it's technically a sequel of the horror movie. So I was like, that's the best horror sequel ever, guys.
I need to hit Nazario up.
Hey, Zari, you watching Rankum tonight? Doug submitted you right.
I don't know. Just after you mentioned his name, we got 2 extra viewers, so maybe.
Hi, Zario.
But it's back to me. And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna bring. I wasn't sure I was gonna have time to bring this up. Because I thought for sure that one of the other picks would have got the yes.
It's hard to get away.
But this is one I'm actually surprised wasn't brought up earlier, considering I'm pretty sure it was mentioned on Bloody Manor for the horror musicals episode. I'm bringing up Little Shop of Horror. This of this movie, and Steve Martin as the dentist, and just all the music. I'd probably cut out there a little bit, but yeah, this is one of those musicals I really love. I really wish Rocky Horror Picture Show came out in the 80s so I could nominate that, but I can't. So Little Shop of Horror is definitely my second favorite horror musical. But Jeff, what do you say about Little Shop of Horrors?
I love it as a musical. It's a great musical. If the songs are great, it's catchy, but it's not a horror. I mean, I can't look at that as a horror. I mean, it's a fun movie. It works so well. Rick Moranis, Steve Martin. I love Audrey and Audrey too. They're great, but I can't vote it as as one of the best horror movies of the 80s and 90s. I can't. It's one of the best musicals, but not a horror. So I gotta go with a no.
Doug, what do you say about Little Shop of Horror?
It is known as a musical horror comedy. It counts. He murders Steve Martin, and they mentioned that he's a semi-sadist. Plus, it has one of the best cameos next to Zombieland of Bill Murray ever.
I will give you that.
So this listen, I love this pick. This is one of my favorite musicals of all time. People ask me all the time why I like Hercules so much. It's the music, because they're definitely doo-wop musicals. But yeah, no, I'm giving this a yes all day. Malcolm knew how to tweak it right now. He's like, yep.
Yeah,
at least for a vote.
And I mean, the word horror is in the title.
Come on.
Kevin, what do you say about Little Shop of Horrors?
The word horror is in the title, but we are on and horror. It is in the genre as well. But we're on Rankum and not at the Academy. But I haven't seen it, so it doesn't matter. So I
he was leading.
No.
He was leading.
He led that so good.
I'm
So
sorry.
good. Touche, good sir.
Okay.
Touche.
That was
I highly
the
recommend
equivalent of hanging $1 and then just going pip.
You
Um,
almost got it. You almost got it.
Gotta be
yeah,
quicker.
unfortunately,
$10.
because the tie it doesn't make the list. It should, but it's not. Jeff, what is the next nomination?
Oh man, like I'm looking at like the rest of the list. Like there's a couple that work, but oh man, I didn't think we were gonna get this far. Wow.
You're gonna have to make this.
For
You
one
might
pick,
have to
for one
bring in
pick.
2000.
Yeah. No, all right. I'll go with one that was kind of like one of my late round picks. So we'll go with a good psychological one. It's a shame what this franchise or what this like story and the franchise kind of became, because it started off really psychological and really created a very good narrative and had a lot of interesting like political-ish social undertones to it that works really well and can kind of work even to this day. And it still makes me afraid to say his name 5 times in the mirror. Candyman, 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 Candyman. I'm not even gonna do it. So, but you know, this was so scary. Like this was definitely one that made you afraid. It played off of the Bloody Mary moniker really, really well, and kind of gave it a very good and fresh take to it. And having the whole Chicago projects kind of act as like a bit of a subplot really kind of created a whole new subplot to the movie that works really well, even in today's current state, as unfortunate as it is. But I think Candyman is definitely one that really holds up very, very well and should definitely be talked about.
Doug, what do you say about Candyman?
So I'm an idiot. Why didn't we mention this earlier?
Yeah.
Like, Candyman is an actual really good horror movie, and like it adds some really good. It has not just good undertones. It has a genuinely good story. Later down this franchise, I would say after 2, it really drops off, but 2's okay. I 2's okay. But that opening scene where you get the myth is great. I think the movie overall, just the depiction of the racial undertones in this movie are ridiculously depicted well. They brought in real world issues, like stuff that was really going on in Chicago right then and there. I love this movie. I don't know why I didn't bring this movie up earlier. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot. We'll discuss that later. That might be discussed on the TMG page later. Candyman. I'm giving it a yes.
Kevin, what do you say about Candyman?
Candyman is a psychological horror with it's a monster that you can't see, but it's there. But the political undertones, the story that's there, it's unbelievable. Like Doug said, I don't know why we didn't bring this up earlier. This should have been brought up a long time ago and put on the list. A definite yes.
But yeah, I haven't seen it.
This is one I would recommend. Like,
Absolutely,
you should watch. The
definitely
first one, maybe the second one, but the first one's a definite watch.
What worked in the second one was they actually showed what it looks like when somebody gets killed, like without seeing Candyman. That's what works really well with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was on my list to watch. I just hadn't got around to it. But yeah, now we get to the fun part. We get to
I have a feeling my board's not going to change for a real long time, so I'm just gonna. Should I write it in permanent because it's not going to change for a real long time?
But yeah, write down what we think should be at number 12. Jeff, what do you have for 12?
I have The Fly.
Doug?
Now, remember, I haven't seen this movie. The Thing.
Kevin.
You're right, but you know how I roll.
Yeah.
Funny game.
Ooh.
That's a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, we can make this a 4-way tie. I put into a vampire.
So how do we do this?
I'm going to put them up on my wheel, and it's going to be randomized that way.
Oh, I feel so bad for Jeff. I'll feel
I do
so
too.
bad for Jeff. Like, yeah, no, I feel even worse.
If Funny Games goes to 12, man, that's gonna hurt.
Or what if this?
I
goes
wouldn't
to
be
12?
mad at the Thing more at Funny Games because Funny
Hey, it
Games
was
was
a
like
Hail Mary.
crazy good.
It is good.
Let's see how this wheel's gonna go.
Maybe I won't be here long.
I mean, you have a 25% chance of getting it down.
Right?
The suspense is real.
The suspense is killing me.
And
Ha
and Funny Games.
I have a feeling this is going to be a trend for a lot of these. We're going to be doing a lot of wheels.
We can blame the fifth person who was supposed to be here but didn't.
You see what you did? You see what you did?
And the fly is going to be 12.
Okay.
I'm not mad at it.
That was what I picked, so I can't be mad.
I need to get. I can only see like part of the list for some reason, but I'll get it from you at some point.
It's probably because you dropped out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I've got enough of it, I think, right now.
Oh, you know, okay, that will work next time. I just completely forgot that we actually had someone active in the comments. But Jeff, what do you have for 11?
Interview with the Vampire.
Doug?
Okay.
Kevin?
I also have Interview.
But yeah, Interview is going to be 11.
So I said I'm gonna be up here for a while. Oh shoot, that just happened. I was trying to make it easier.
Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
Oh, we never did our honorable mentions either. I forgot.
No, we didn't. We didn't. Not that I actually.
I don't know how many honorable mentions you have left. I mean, we put up quite a few movies.
I've got
quite a few
actually, but
quite a few.
I got a few. We can talk about it before we cancel out.
Yeah, we'll go.
Hey, you want to see what my board says? Want to see what my board says?
Okay. I wonder.
The Thing.
I'm
just gonna leave my board up like this until Thing gets picked.
You can do your beard dance if you want. But Kevin, what do you have for 10?
And I actually haven't put anything. You want to skip me?
Go ahead. Oh, whoops.
Sorry, I was writing them down.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
But yeah, I've got my one's probably going to be a shocker, but I put 7.
Wow.
As much as I like it, it's also one that it's just on that edge of horror, crime, thriller. Just not enough for me to put it higher on the horror list. But Jeff, what do you have?
Took the words out of my mouth. 7.
And Kevin, what do you have for 10?
I have The Thing.
Oh,
We're doing for real wheel.
Come
on, let me actually vote in some movies now.
So Stardrew, Thing or
There is a wrong answer.
Is there? Is there?
I mean,
So start with
Is
Thing.
there?
So Thing or Seven. And I'll give you a little bit about a few minutes before I actually resort to the real.
I'm checking back and forth in the comments too.
I am too. I'm looking down at my phone. I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Where are we going?
5, 4,
He posted it.
7.
7.
It's 7.
Hey guys, my board's not changed. Maybe I will change it. I don't know. I follow rules.
I mean, Doug was
Box could be
probably
anything.
waiting until we
It could be a
reached
box.
7. Doug was probably hoping to wait to see the 7 to vote 7 for that.
I actually honestly was. I was like, let's get 7 and 7 because that'd be hilarious.
That'd be cool, yeah.
I mean, 10's not too far off, but and I love that you spelled it the right way too in the in the little underscore.
C7 and
He wouldn't even spell out.
I guess
Back
I
to
would
the
say
Future last week.
C7 English. That's the
Yeah.
abbreviation for English.
Like,
C7 in. What are we supposed to C7 in?
the
On the 7th of
Look up-
July in 2007.
look up to the right.
But Jeff, what do you have for 9?
I said there was a wrong answer because it'll belong at number 9, the Thing.
I finally get to vote for something else.
It only took you to 9. But
And believe it or not, it was a
hey,
it
we all
was a
agree.
clean sweep.
Clean sweep.
All right. All right. Now I think this is a fair enough place for this game, this movie.
Who won Classic today?
What was it?
I was just wondering who won Classic today.
Oh, I didn't see it.
It was Ryan O'Regan.
All right, nice. Good job.
He
Ryan
beat
Reagan.
he beat an entire faction all on his own.
Nice.
A one-man army.
Yeah,
What faction?
New British Empire.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
I was wondering if how many of them would get on.
I mean, with the fact that Sundays is earlier, and a lot of them are actually British and sort of over there, it's really easy for that to happen on Sundays. But what, Jeff? What do you have for 8?
I have American Werewolf in London.
Boo,
Doug,
sir.
what-
Boo.
Doug, what do
Funny
you have
games
for
for
8?
that answer. Funny games for that answer.
No.
Yeah, I can't make it a tie because I put Scream.
Oh, that one hurts.
But Funny Games is going to be
Doesn't hurt
8.
as much as that hurts. The
Does it?
betrayal.
Does it
The
hurt?
betrayal. Yeah, because, you know.
This is where it gets hard.
But yeah, just to recap what we've got left, we've got Misery, The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, American Werewolf for London, Scream, Poltergeist, and Candyman. Jeff, what do you have for 7?
Hey, look, I'm the Doug now. American Werewolf.
Doug?
But you're only the Doug for one because I said American Werewolf.
Kevin,
I said
Kevin.
Candyman.
That's it.
And I've still got Scream, but American Werewolf in London is going to be 7. that could be the crossover movies. Seven and American Werewolf in London.
7 American Wolves in London.
And I don't actually know why I erased my board. Jeff, what do you have?
Malcolm, what did you vote for?
Jeff, what do you have for 6?
I have Poltergeist.
Oh.
Doug?
Mm.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Kevin?
Scream.
And Scream.
Boo to both of you.
I don't know why I erased this.
I don't know
Spoiler.
either.
And Stardrew has a really hot take in the comments.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. Misery is amazing. How dare
Misery
you?
is
Come
amazing.
on.
How
You
dare
are- That's
you?
so horrible.
How
That's a
dare you.
horrible hot take.
I'll
That's
break
a
your
horrible hot
knees.
take.
I'll break your knees.
Kevin again, gangster up in here.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take. Kevin. I had to cool myself off after that hot take.
I don't,
But
I don't, I
Doug,
don't
what do
discriminate.
you Doug, what do you have for
I didn't
5?
change my word. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Kevin,
Nightmare on Elm.
I've got Poltergeist. Jeff?
To the chat, Poltergeist.
so
Lordy.
Stardrew, Poltergeist or Nightmare on Elm Street?
Come on, chat.
Scream deserves better.
Scream does deserve better. I agree with you.
I was gonna put it top 5, but
but Stardrew, Poltergeist or Nightmare on Elm Street? Nightmare on Elm Street. He's putting it 5. Talking about something that deserves better.
I think 4 is a good place for this one.
But Kevin, what do you have for 5?
For 4, I have Misery.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, I've got
that's
Poltergeist. Jeff, what do you have for 4?
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist wins out. Eye Candyman. Come on, you all know the right answer to put down on this board right now. Everyone knows the right answer to put down on this board right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the one Stardrew's been saying?
No, no, it's not the right answer. Hot takes. I gotta cool myself off again.
Oh Lord.
He said kill Misery. He said kill Misery. That's what happens. That's why he gets trapped.
Jeff, what do you have for 4?
I'm happy that 12th pick made it all the way to 4.
Halfway.
Candyman.
Doug, what do you have for
Candyman.
3?
Yeah, I forgot that was still there. Candyman.
I actually
Ooh.
picked one of the 2 I'd never seen in Misery.
How dare
Lord,
you?
Lord Almighty.
But I mean, it doesn't. But my
We're
vote
safe.
doesn't.
We're safe. The top 2 are probably 2 of the best horror
Yeah.
movies.
We're in,
So we're voting for number 1.
Yep,
Voting for
alright,
number
vote for
1.
Number 1. Okay.
There's no real wrong answer with either of these, really.
No, there's not.
No,
but
not really.
There's a right answer though. I'm just kidding.
Would it be the movie has a sequel coming out? And that's technically not giving anything away because actually,
Do they both?
Annie's coming up in Castle Rock. She's going to be a character in Castle Rock.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, good call. Good call.
I can't
But
wait.
is that
I can't wait.
would that be really be considered a sequel to the movie though?
It's a continue kind of.
Malcolm, relax. Inside joke.
but,
Inside joke.
but Jeff, what do you have for number one?
Based on what show I'd rather watch, I went Misery.
Doug, what do you have for number one?
Wow.
Shining.
Kevin, what do you have for number one?
Best 80s, 90s horror movie of all time, The Shining.
It's The Shining.
I can respect it.
But that is not a bad number two. Listen, this list overall, I'm not upset with.
No.
I was
That's a tough
I
list,
was tempted to go Misery just to see Stardrew's reaction, but I'm not going to.
Poltergeist deserves better. Poltergeist deserves better.
Can we get some of our honorables?
But yeah, I believe this is Joseph. But he for him he says that The Thing is number one.
Not number one, but it's on our list. Be happy it's on the list.
And he's also questioning about 7 being on the list.
I did too.
Yes, it's a horror movie. It's technically a horror movie.
But Jeff, what honorable mentions did you have?
Okay, so looking at my list of honorable mentions, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors was always one I enjoyed. The original Hellraiser, Sleepaway Camp, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer was always a good one. As far as the Friday the 13th go, the final chapter and Jason Lives were the best ones. Jacob's Ladder was a really good psychological horror. In the Mouth of Madness. Yep. The Faculty, Kronos, The Craft, Demon Knight was always a fun one in my eyes. Urban Legend, and Pet Cemetery.
Doug, what honorable mentions did you have?
Cool. I got a few. I got The Blob, the remake. I actually enjoy Sleepy Hollow. The Serpent and the Rainbow, Arachnophobia, Cujo. I like Tales of the Dark Side. Twilight Zone, The Craft, Reanimator, and Wolf.
Kevin, what honorable mentions did you have?
I had The Sixth Sense, the J horror film Cure. I also had Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. I had Christine, Jacob's Ladder, Scream 2, Kronos, Lost Highway, Near Dark, Children of the Corn, Videodrome, From Dusk to Dawn, and Cape Fear.
Cape Fear's good.
Cape Fear's good one.
I didn't actually have a lot of honorable mentions left. Because I myself did try to stay away from putting the sequel, like bit too many sequels on my own list, but I wasn't going to say no to them as well. But I did actually enjoy the original Child's Play. That was the one I would have brought up had I not brought up Little Shop of Horrors. Scream 2 was on my list. And say what you want about this movie, I really enjoyed The Haunting that came out in '99 with Liam Neeson.
You did what?
I like that movie.
You did what?
But yeah,
Eleanor.
Wow. And I thought shit was a hot take.
He's the guy. No, I'm just kidding.
Eleanor.
But yeah, Jeff, where can people find you online?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I need to calm down after that freaking haunting take now. You can find me on Facebook, Jeff Murray. You look me up. I'm one of the only ones there. You can find me at Full Metal, hosting, editing, competing, doing all things over there. Helping out over here with Take 3, with Rankum anytime. Starting up my own little podcast thing called Machinate Media. It should be coming out hopefully end of the year, beginning of next year. Ironing out a couple kinks, so definitely be on the lookout for that stuff. So good stuff on the way.
Doug, where can people find you online?
Right now, my main focus is Transvail. If you haven't heard of the show, go check it out, please. It is a D&D campaign with a bunch of fan reactors and fan leaguers, and my friend Sean from Jersey, from the music scene. We have a lot of fun. We are 3 episodes deep. They're about 3 hours long, but you can download the audio form. Check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/The Adventures Transvail. It helps us out greatly, making the show the best that we can make it. We're trying to get our camera gear upgraded. We're trying to make sure that our editing software is upgraded, so that way we can bring you the best show that we can make. And we have a lot of fun doing it. We have people that can attest to that. People laugh and watch the show all the time. So come out, hang out with us. And I'm all around the league as well. So check me out here.
And talking about people that love to watch our show, Kevin, where can people find you online?
You can find me online. I'm all over Facebook at Kevin Ploss. I'm on Take 3. I'm on Rankum all the time. And I'm on Twitter at Ploss_Kevin. And I am one of the Patreons of said D&D podcast and YouTube channel Transvail. It's freaking amazing, guys. Go check them out. Fund these guys. They're awesome. It's the most fun you'll have. I can't give them enough props. They are awesome. So go check them out and go check out their Patreon page, and you'll see it on Doug's page.
And yeah, you can find me on Transvail as well. You can also find me using Rankum every Sunday night, and also I do the Bracteers show. That doesn't really have a set date. It's usually on Sunday anyway. But there's that. I've just done the semi-finals for the actresses bracket. That's up there. There's also a poll for the bands bracket, which is really interesting with which changed literally minutes before I went live to do that, because Cameron sent me a list. And you can find me on Full Metal Random find me on Full Metal Trivia hosting Full Metal Random. This week is a special Halloween episode, which is going to be a really big, but you've got Team Atom, which is comprised of Jeremy Russell, Michael Campbell, and Luca Hope Fallon Madden, up against Team Blockbuster, which is Mike Hanley, Nazario Montenegro, Thomasines, and Matt Crowler. So it's definitely a big undertaking. We've got the format sort of locked for a special 8-man tag match, but it's going to be great. And I'll have a poll up shortly after this with the options they'll be on off for next week. But yeah, until I see you next week, keep listening shit.
Malcolm disappeared.
See, Malcolm?
Yeah,
We're still
Malcolm
alive.
took himself out instead of ending the call. Oh no. Hi everybody, this ain't awkward.